All right, here we are. And you're here too. The Scary Alvarez podcast is back. And as many of you know, the podcast has already lasted almost as long as Hunter Dickinson trying out a new pregame arena walk. Look in the mirror. I'm your host, Scary Alvarez, Wine Island enjoyer, Sherry Wine destroyer, Jake's grandpa, and Cindy's plus one when she'll have me. And today we'll be talking to Badger forward Carter Gilmore as we turn our attention back to Wisconsin hoops, which is about to embark on a stiff three-game stretch against Marquette, Michigan State, and Arizona. Just saying that out loud, it makes me wish that was football. Make it a little easier. But welcome aboard, Carter. Really appreciate it. And this will be very exciting for you to fulfill a lifelong dream of being on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it was always been a dream of mine for sure to be on the Scary Alvarez podcast. So here I am.
Yeah, I know a lot of props of youngsters growing up in Wisconsin look with a fond eye to being on this podcast someday, and it's great to see that come to fruition for you. And I said this earlier. I speak loudly. I have a very booming baritone, but pretend I'm Greg Gard yelling at you for taking a 3-pointer. So kind of get it out there. Well, let's start off by having. I know my fans who are watching, my millions of fans are going to know who you are, but I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell my audience a few things they should know about you before we get going.
Yeah, I'm Carter Gilmore. I'm a redshirt junior forward for the Wisconsin Badgers. I'm from Heartland, Wisconsin. I went to Arrowhead. And yeah, it's been a dream of mine to play for the Badgers ever since I was a little kid. So living out my dream and doing what I love.
That's very cool. And I also wanted to play basketball for Wisconsin. My 39-inch vertical was not, apparently you need more than that to play Division I basketball. So you grew up in Heartland, you just said. Please tell me all about Heartland. Carter, I'm just kidding. We're good. So this might be a tough one, but I need an honest answer from you on this. What as far as like when you're growing up, and this isn't, I'm not trying to get bulletin board material. I know you played Marquette this week, but when you were a kid, I think you alluded to this. Were you a big Wisconsin Badger fan?
Yeah, my dad actually played for Bo Ryan back in the day at Platteville, so we had that connection. And as a kid, I always grew up going to Badger practices and Badger games, and Bo Ryan would let me go down in the locker room after and visit with the players and stuff. So I grew up with that dream for sure.
That's very cool. Like we had Gus Bus Yeldon on the podcast earlier this fall, and I know he's been a big fan of the program since he was a little kid. And we did briefly touch on the 2015 loss to Duke in the national championship game. I can imagine that was for a youngster as you were at that time. That must have been pretty tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember being down in Florida for the game, watching it at my grandparents' place down there with my family. So, I mean, grew up watching that and grew up in the driveway, still pretending to be Bronson Koenig, Sam Decker, all those guys. So,
yeah, that was a great team. And some real personalities too. I mean, that was part of why that was so special. I mean, you don't find a guy like Kaminsky. I mean, the skills are one thing to have an All-American, player of the year type skills, but to have that unique and by all accounts incredibly genuine personality that the Tank had. It was just, and we'll get back to Frank later in the podcast, but that must have been fun to watch as a young aspiring hoopster.
Yeah, for sure.
Good. Well, so basically we've already talked about Marquette, and I got some good news for you, Carter. I know you love playing the Kohl Center. I've recently been informed by the program that game is a sellout. Not surprisingly, so that's going to be a full house, and they're going to do a whiteout, where I guess the kids wear their white shirts. I'm going to have to ask for you to also wear a white shirt at the Marquette game. Is that going to be any problem for you?
I don't think so.
Okay, good stuff. So, I did some research, I have to be perfectly honest, full disclosure, Carter. my grandson, Joe Ferguson. I know you know Jake Ferguson, who plays for the Dallas Cowboys, but Joe is a researcher for the show. I often employ him to do some of the dirty work to get some information on my guests. And he has informed me that you had 7 Division I basketball offers in high school at Heartland before you decided to walk in at Wisconsin. Take me through the process of I know it had to be difficult when you have these scholarship offers looking at you and you still go ahead and chase that dream. How was that? What was that like for you?
Uh, yeah, I mean, kind of in my head, my whole way through high school, I told everyone I was going to Wisconsin before I had any offers. Um, so I mean, that was like I said many times, like that was my dream growing up as a kid. And then I got a lot of mid majors when I turned to the Phenom team. Um, and before my senior year, I kind of knew that I was only going to be able to get a walk on spot once the Davis twins committed and Ben Carlson committed. I knew there was no scholarships left, and they took me on a visit and told me they had a walk on spot and that I had a chance to earn a scholarship later. Um, so they gave me that, and the next day, my parents kind of talked with me, and I could have either waited out my senior year and tried to get more offers, or take this. And I mean, it didn't take long. I committed the next day as soon as I got it, and uh, JJ Watt actually emailed me the night before too. Of one of my trainers was good friends of JJ, and obviously he had a similar story of being a walk on and stuff. So he reached out to me and sent me a email and super nice letter of just kind of bet on yourself, dream big, work hard was his motto, and it worked for him. And I thought if it worked for him, why can't it work for me? So
Well, that's a great story, and speaks volumes of your commitment. I mean, and it's not to say we would begrudge any kid from taking a scholarship offer at a mid major when Wisconsin walk off offer was there. That's their road, but it's pretty cool to see you go through that, and then through your own hard work. It's not like it was given to you, but to be rewarded with a prominent spot on a team, a few years later. I mean, that's got to be incredibly gratifying.
yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of hard work, but there's been a lot of memories, and I've just been blessed to have amazing teammates and a lot of coaches here that support me. And I got family and uh, God. I mean, believe in Him, and I know I can do all things. So all the hard work, it's paying off. But I mean, I still got 2 more years, and I got a long ways I can go. So it's been a good journey, but long way to go still.
Well, that's very cool. So, looking back at your time so far, what would you say is your most exciting Wisconsin Badger basketball memory?
Easily the Purdue game when we won the Big Ten championship. Um, I mean, that was literally, I don't even know how to put it in words still, but uh, to have Johnny have the season he had that year, Chucky to hit that shot at the end, and to just do it with that team and those guys. It was definitely a special moment. And to have the whiteout that night, to have Big Cat right there, it was a night I definitely won't forget. And uh, all my family was here, and I got to spend it with all them and my teammates after. So it was a good time for sure.
That was super exciting. In your head, I know, I know. Obviously, it was Johnny had taken the previous shot, and then Ivy hit the three, and Chucky did the three off the glass. Little part of Carter Gilmore have that play drawn up for himself there. You could, I mean, let's I understand that's not obviously what Gard was going to do, but every player wants to be that guy in that moment. And I know you have played a strong rebounding role and stuff. And I know you score some points, but it's got to be for all players. You have that kind of exciting game winning moment. I mean, I think you got one of those in you, Carter.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got one in me, but I mean, it's also cool to see your teammates do it as well. To see Chucky do that and have that experience, and you just kind of live it through him. Those moments are awesome too. So, yeah, I do wish maybe I could have hit that shot, but to see a teammate do it, I mean, it brings just as much joy to me. So,
Yeah, it was great. And the 2023-24 Badger team, and I know y'all, wasn't the season you wanted last season. And you have most of the core group back, and you have AJ Stora and a couple other, pieces have shuffled around a little bit. But Tell me how this year's team feels different than last year's team and why.
I just think we've all taken a step forward. Last year was kind of our first year playing together. When you lose Johnny and Brad from the year before, and you had a lot of guys kind of fill in some roles. We were older in a sense of we had some juniors and the seniors on the team, but for a lot of us, it was our first time playing. And so now that we all have that experience, we filled in pieces, like you said, with AJ Storr, with John Blackwell, Nolan, Kamari, Isaac, all those guys who can come in and play key roles. And then I just think mentally, last year we were all in those close games, and a lot of times we ended up losing those close games and we couldn't finish out the games. But this year we really focused hard on more of the mental toughness aspect and approach of just knowing when times get tough or if we're down a couple points at the end of the game to not give in and to keep fighting. And I think we've kind of seen that in stretches this year of not playing down to the level of our competition, and on games when we have to go up to the level of our competition, play up just to kind of be even keel, go out there and do our work. And I think we've come a long way, and I think it'll show in the games to come.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And, it's the thing that always vexes me. I've said this before on the show and also on Twitter. I call it Twitter. He's got to pay me to call it X. That, you know, people say, well, the team didn't make the tournament last year and it has most of the same guys, ergo, they're not going to make the tournament this year. And that's a fundamental misunderstanding of how college basketball works, for the reasons you just articulated. I mean, you have these talented players who have a little bit different situation this year and have been together a year longer. And I predicted before the season started a huge jump for this team. And that's not even taking AJ Storr into account. So the rotation from the 10,000 foot view of someone on the team, it's a much deeper, more talented rotation than it was last year, and that's why I have high expectations for this team.
Mm-hmm.
So, go ahead.
And I think also a big addition we had is Kirk Penny. He is really one of the best basketball minds I've ever been around. He was a former Badger and stuff, and he's came back here and he's implemented some stuff on offense that have made everything a lot smoother and kind of put everyone in a lot better position to be successful on offense. Where last year, sometimes we were unsure in certain spots of what we were allowed to do, what we could do. And this year, it's a lot more fluid, and I think people are just starting to see the brink of what our offense can be. Our defense has some work to do, but that's what we hang our hat on. But I think the offensive end is where we've been improving a lot too.
Yeah, that seemed pretty obvious. I mean, one thing that, and I guess it is still early in the season, but it's been a season of games, several of which have been against quality to really, really good teams so far, and that's going to continue. Is those moments last year where there'd be the long scoring droughts? That just doesn't happen. I mean, that is an objective sign about the cohesiveness of the offense and some of the new wrinkles. Kirk Penny, remind me, he's in New Zealand and he's from somewhere over there.
Yep, New Zealand.
He's got that cool accent. God,
Yeah.
I'm jealous. So you've been around the team for obviously a few years now. Which dude on the team is the funniest guy / would make the best future Scary Alvarez podcast guest? And before you answer, I'm going to give you my bias. Connor Essegian, I don't know if he's funny IRL, but when I was watching that show about y'all in France, and he's this freshman, I think he's 17 years old at the time, or maybe just 18, and he's seeing who's going to pony him up some money to jump off this boat into a French river. I think he wanted like a hunji or something. That told me right there. If I ever do a podcast, I want to get that cat on. But I mean, that's just my bias. I'll give you the stage on this one. Who's the jokester of the team?
Yeah. Well, I think Khan's a safe choice for sure, just because he's a little more into the media and all the video and that stuff. Honestly, the most Connor and Kamari McGee are the best, I think, on camera, doing that stuff. But I think a dark horse for sure would be Max Klesmet. I think he's really one of the funniest guys on the team. And he honestly was thinking about starting a podcast a little bit, but I think Connor and Kamari would be safe bets, but I think cool one for sure could be Max Klesmet.
Okay. Well, the Max and Scary Pod will launch soon after the season. When you guys end in late March, early April, if you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? That's good stuff. Tell me, this is. And I'm not going to get into the weeds on this, but any coach at a successful basketball program like Wisconsin who took over from a legend like Greg Gard has is going to have his share of detractors season to season just based upon fans' expectations. That's just the way it is. I happen to be a huge Greg Gard fan for a number of reasons, and I wanted to tell. It doesn't have to, you don't have to share the most intimate details of what's in the locker room, but what's it like playing for Greg Gard?
I mean, so my dad, like I said, played for Bo Ryan. So I grew up playing for my dad, and I think I've done probably 80% of the drills we do here at Wisconsin for my dad. And he's coached me kind of that similar way of all growing up. So uh, there's a lot of times he does stuff or does drills or just says stuff to me that reminds me a lot of my dad. So having that is just something that I've been used to. So um, I enjoy that just because it's what I've grown up doing. And it's actually helped me a lot of just understand the concepts and all that stuff as well. But he, the way I would put it is he's just a good man. Like he allows you time to hang out with your family. All the stuff outside of basketball, he really values, and that's something that he's helped me grow up a lot of. Just what do I truly value in life, and knowing that while basketball is super important, there's a lot of other things that go on around life that are really important as well. Like even just like the schoolwork, for example, he really nails that home of how important doing your schoolwork is, and just having that as a coach, I think has just helped me grow up a lot as a man. Just seeing the teammates kind of around him, you just kind of grow into a better man, and that's the first thing I took away from him is just he is a good leader, and he values everything my parents kind of valued, and that's something he took to me on my visit. So
Yeah.
he I just think he's what you look for in a Wisconsin coach of he values all the little things, the defensive principles, doing the right thing all the time, and that's who he is as a person, and that's who he is as a coach. So
Yeah, I mean, I hear you on all that, and I know it's kind of an overused cliche, but he seems to do it the right way. I mean, that's just there are a lot of coaches, maybe with bigger, flashier names, who come in and make a splash, doing recruiting a certain way or running their program a certain way, or not caring as much about academics, and then they surely have a fade out pretty quick. And it seems like Coach Gard has kept it real steady, and that's part of why I'm so high on this year's team. I think it's the fruit. It's years of hard work and planning to get this team together coming to fruition. So it should be exciting to see that.
yeah, and
Um, who,
I think the biggest testament to Coach Gard that, like you said, he gets a lot of hate and there's up and down, but within the transfer portal and the NIL and all this stuff, if you can maintain a team and lose maybe one or two players here or there, that's a sign of a good program. And uh, it takes a good coach who when he brings in transfers and all this stuff, he recruits good people, not just good players. And I think he's just built a good culture and a good environment here that makes people want to play here, makes people want to stay here. So uh,
yeah,
I think that's just a testament to him and the culture he's helped build.
agreed. By the way, real quick flashback. You had mentioned Brad Davison, and I know you knew Brad pretty well before he moved on. Did it ever happen when you were out and about, maybe hanging out on the weekend or something, and you approach Brad and he just kind of falls to the ground? Did that ever happen to you to try to draw a charge? Is that just on the court?
No, that's just on the court.
Okay, I didn't. I just want to make sure that I talked to Dana Retke a couple years ago, who was friends with Brad, and I asked her the same thing, and I thought for a second she's a volleyball frontline volleyball player, and so she can appreciate strategy and things like that. But she said what you said. He does not do that in public to his friends, which is surprising. But anyway, Brad's playing pro ball somewhere. I yeah, not you don't have to be my researcher. I'll get Joe Ferguson on that, but I think somewhere in Europe, right? He's in a European league.
Yeah, I honestly can't keep it straight. Him and his wife are both playing out there. Him and Tyra.
Oh, was she
So
IU,
yep,
Indiana?
Indiana's all-time leading scorer over there. So
Incredible.
yeah, she's a hooper too. So
Speaking of IU, you're a Wisconsin football fan, I presume. There's been some talk of maybe Paul Chryst heading to Bloomington. That kind of took me by surprise. That'd be kind of exciting to see Paul get another chance in the Big Ten.
yeah, I mean, who was it? Who was our old coach that coached at Illinois? I can't. Bielema.
Oh, Bielema, yeah,
Yeah.
he's casts a big shadow.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it's always cool when you got to go up against coaches that were former coaches or stuff like that. It adds a little more fun to the game for sure. So
Yeah, I said that if Chryst were if Chryst were hired at IU, the 18-team Big Ten, that's with the 4 Pac-12 teams coming in, 17% of the conference football coaches would be either current or former Wisconsin football coaches, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
I did that research myself. That wasn't Joe. Um, if this is one, and I don't want to get you in trouble on this. I've talked to your handler, and so everything's uncomfortable. I think this is a fair question. Um, if it were up only to you, and this isn't any criticism of the athletic department, this isn't. I just want to say, if you were a king for a day like me, if you were like Scary Alvarez, would you want to have students on the sides of the courts at games instead of behind the baskets?
I mean, I wish there was. So, like at my high school, we had it where the fans were right behind the basket, and I do like that because if you have like a cool dunk or a cool play, you can cheer and the fans are right there with the other player shooting free throws. You can have them waving the little balloons and that stuff.
Yeah.
That honestly is all a distraction. But I think where they can improve, like I think one of the coolest places is Michigan State with the is zone, where it's the whole lower bowl is students, or some places have it where student sections are on both
Cameron. Yeah.
baselines. So I think there definitely could be improvement. I'm not going to lie. I think the alcohol sales at the game, I think that's a great first step. But I know there's a lot of season ticket holders and a lot of stuff, a lot of loopholes you got to go around to change the student section and stuff. But I know it's something they're looking into a little bit, and I would encourage them to look into it a little more. But I'll be interested to see how the alcohol sales. I went to the hockey game when they played Michigan State, I believe, and that game was pretty cool. So
was it this year?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, the Wolverines. I think they had the Wolverines come in. Yeah.
Michigan and Maddie had the buzzer beater goal to win. So that game was just electric to be at, and I could just kind of tell. I'm looking forward to this Marquette game for sure. So
yeah, it's going to be really cool. I presume you're a hockey fan. Besides men's hockey, what other UW sports do you get out to?
I've gotten out to volleyball a couple times. I haven't gotten out this year. Football, obviously, and that's really all I've gone to. I know we got a couple guys on our team who go. Connor Asian, he's probably the one who makes it out to most games. Women's soccer, I know they go to sometimes, but those are the main ones I go to.
Yeah, I talked to a couple women's soccer players 3-4 weeks ago, and they unfortunately they bowed out in the round of 32 in the tournament to Texas in a really tough loss, but that was really fun. It was kind of exciting to get some insight into a program that maybe isn't as heralded as some of the other ones, but the kids work really hard. So we'll get you out to Carter. I'm going to get you out to a Wisconsin soccer game next year. We'll do that. And wrestling, apparently, I talked to Coach Bono a few months back, and that's some wild stuff too. I mean, that is you want action and violence and aggression. You get a lot of that in wrestling. I think it's one of the most underrated sports from a fan perspective. I think people, because it's like just one guy on one guy at a time. It's so much different than team sports, but they do some good stuff there too.
Yeah, we got an Arrowhead product on the wrestling team too. So
who's that?
Might have to Josh Otto, I believe.
Okay. Hey, do you know his name is a palindrome? His last name?
Yeah,
Otto? We can break that out at a party sometime. Impress me. So we do a word association game on this show. This is always fun, at least for me. I'm going to say a name, and I want you to say the first thing that comes out of pops into your mind when you hear it. Okay.
All right.
Um, I was gonna go if you didn't say okay, I was still gonna go for it. Um, Frank the Tank.
44.
Hunter Dickinson.
Wearing a ski mask to our game.
Yeah, that was wild. And again, I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I know he still plays college basketball for KU. He's having a pretty good season so far, but you know, I have the ability to say who my villains are, who my least favorite players are, and that guy just rubs me the wrong way. I just it's in a way it's like it sucks to not have him on Michigan anymore because it was kind of fun to have a villain. What goofball wears a ski mask to it? Away? I just that was such a satisfying win. I can I can tell by your face that it was.
Yeah, I love that. Makes everything more fun. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone feeds into it. It's all in good fun.
He's like a pro wrestling heel, is what I would say. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He may be a good dude down deep. I don't know. I don't know this. I don't know Hunter Dickinson from Adam, but definitely the character he portrays on the court is that of a pro wrestling heel. Johnny Davis.
Best Badger of all time.
He's a great one. Michael Finley, I know he's a voracious fan of this podcast. Might be looking at this, shaking his head a little bit, but we're gonna try to get Mike Finley on.
I'll take it back. Best single season all time.
Yeah, 21-22 was such a magical year, and Johnny was such a big part of that. And I've said this before, and I don't need your opinion necessarily on this unless you want to give it, but I feel like if Johnny isn't banged up, I know he was having some ankle problems down the stretch there into the tournament, and Chucky Hepburn doesn't go down against Iowa State, I think that's an Elite Eight team. I really do. Maybe, I mean, I know they had to play Kansas. That was going to be a tough one, but that was so heartbreaking as a fan. I can imagine what it was like as a member of the team to see things out of your control steer the destiny of an otherwise incredible team. That was one of the rougher endings to a season that I can remember.
Yeah, especially in Milwaukee, to lose it there, that one stung for sure. But
yeah, it was tough. Jake Ferguson.
Dallas Cowboys. Need him.
There's another.
Got him on my fantasy team.
You have. Here's the thing, and I know there's a connection between me and Jake. I think people are shocked to hear he's my grandson, but it was weird. I got some side eye looks in my fantasy football draft this year when I took Jake third overall in the first round. People didn't understand, and I said the only reason I took him third overall is because I couldn't take him second or first because my draft slot was third. And look, the only issue with him is Dak Prescott sometimes gets tunnel vision and feels like he needs to hyperfeed it to his receivers. Like Jake this week had one catch for like 30 yards. He was targeted 3 times. You can't target a superstar 3 times.
Too good either out there, huh?
Pardon me?
CeeDee Lamb's not too good. He shouldn't be throwing it to him.
Well, no, CeeDee Lamb is a fantastic receiver, but Jake Ferguson's a better tight end. So what I'm thinking of, Carter, is there are a couple games this season. I know Dallas is they're on a streak right now. They're doing fine. They allegedly have an offensive coordinator, but there have been games where the end of the game or something, you see Prescott trying to force it into receiver, and you see invariably Jake Ferguson in the middle of the field, 20 yards down the field, without a guy 3 yards away from him. And I just feel like if he were targeted 10 times a game, Dallas would be undefeated. I said it. There it is. Winding up here, I want to get you out of here. I know you got some practice to do today. What is a cool thing about being on the Badger basketball team that very few people would know? Maybe not even you.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my favorites for sure is the travel to games. Those days are one of my favorite days because you get you normally have like a practice before, so you'll go into the gym. Not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest class guy, so normally you get a missed class. You got to come in, you have practice, and you get like a catered in meal. So those meals are always pretty good. And then you pack your bags and you come back, and normally you get like Jersey Mike's on the plane. You have normally like an hour and a half plane ride. You all sit first class on a chartered plane. Stewardess will come by with all the snacks you want to eat, all the Gatorades, all the waters you want for the plane ride. So through that, you can do whatever you want, watch movies. And then as soon as you land, you take a bus ride to the hotel. Normally have a full buffet dinner waiting for you. You normally eat that and go to bed. So those are definitely some of my favorite days as a Badger. And then another underrated, I think, is just the teammates, especially on the basketball team. I would compete that I think we got the closest team around here, and that you just got to go in there. We got the new locker room, and to go in there and just hang out with each other every day, whether it's in the locker room or off the locker room, out of the locker room, we'll be hanging with each other pretty much all day, every day. And we'll get a little sick of each other here and there, but for the most part, these are the best friends like I've ever had, and to be able to hang out with each other every day, I think that's just something you don't get a lot of places that we have here for sure.
Yeah, well, that's cool in the cohesion. I hear a lot of the same things from the football guys. Hayden Rucci was on early on, and Nolan, and there's just something special about when you're going through all of the same things with the same core group of people for so many years. That's a level of camaraderie that it's hard to achieve as a student who doesn't play athletics. Finally, you're a Packer fan, right?
Bear fan.
Are you serious?
Mom grew
How
up
does
in
that,
Illinois. Was Mama's boy.
Carter, you're breaking my heart, man.
I know. I mean, it's not. It's hard, but I had to grow
I
up.
can imagine it's hard being a Bear fan.
I had to
It's going to
grow
be
up with
really
so
hard.
much hate that I can't switch now. I've already dealt with all the hate. That hopefully the Packers start to slip a little and the Bears start to come up, and it'll be perfect timing for the rise right here.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you if Jordan Love is the guy as a fellow Packer fan, and now I have to ask you as someone who wants him to fail.
No,
Uh,
I am a fan of Jordan Love. I do think. I mean, I was a fan of Aaron Rodgers too, to be honest. Like it's hard to be a Bears fan. So at the end of the day, I'm a fan of good football. But I think Jordan Love's gonna do pretty well. I think with this age, it's so easy to hate on a guy for not winning right away and to see all that stuff. But as soon as you see both sides and you see his stats compared to Aaron Rodgers or other quarterbacks off their first year, I think I think he's got a promising future for sure.
well, I appreciate it. Love's doing great. I think he's likely the guy. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but he certainly seems to have the makeup for it. Sometimes, full disclosure, I sometimes watch the draft where the Bears took Trubisky while Patrick Mahomes was still on the was still available, and I'll just for no other reason I'll just watch that and just think, my God, how things could have gone differently. The Bears could be a Super Bowl franchise right now. And what a glorious decision! I presume that's an ex-GM who made that one.
Yeah, I think we've probably gone through about 4 from that.
Okay, good stuff. Well, Carter, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time, and it was great having you on. I know this was a thrill of a lifetime for you. Good luck. I know it's a lot of the season's left, but certainly the next 3 games are going to be a lot of fun for you all. Having Marquette and then going to Michigan State, one of the coolest places to play, and then heading out to a trip to Tucson to play the Arizona Wildcats. Good luck with everything, and say hi to Coach Gard for me. We're going to get him on one of these days, probably postseason. But I think this was hopefully a good thing to show Coach Gard. Will make him want to jump on.
Sounds good. Yeah, he would be a good episode for sure.
Absolutely. All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. God bless.